As someone interested in the subject of human evil, I have naturally researched an enormous amount of serial killer cases, starting by Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer all the way to the most obscure cases in different parts of the world. South America, the Middle East, Asia, you name it, I know at least a couple of serial killers from every part of the world. Of course, the US takes the cake in regards of sheer quantity. To put it in numbers, roughly 88% of known serial killers were born in America. But the conditions that shape them are the same regardless of where they come from. Let's start with the million-dollar question. Are serial killers born or made? The answer leaves no room for debate. They are 100% made. There is no murderer gene or anything of the like. At least as far as we know, no one is naturally predisposed to become a serial murderer. Having answered that, it's time to get a bit more specific. Comparing every single case that I know of had led me to notice a pattern. One that is not absolute, mind you, but that presents itself in an astonishing number of individuals. In this video, I will be detailing this pattern and trying to explain how it comes to be. Keep in mind that these are my theories though, and I welcome everyone who would like to disprove or add to them in the comments section. So, why do serial killers exist? I will now proceed to tell you the exact process, stage by stage, that leads a person down this road. As I said earlier, most serial killers follow this pattern throughout their lives. They are subjected to a severe traumatic experience at an early age. This can range from all kinds of abuse to seeing their parents dismembered in front of them. But it doesn't need to be that drastic. The key factor here is how sensitive a person may be to any given hardship. For certain individuals, even getting lost at the supermarket can become a trauma that haunts them for the rest of their lives. So even if we look at a serial killer whose childhood doesn't fit our description of traumatic, that doesn't mean it wasn't for them. It's all a matter of perspective. To give you an example, Dennis Nielsen lost his grandparent at an early age, something that is obviously very painful, but also very likely to happen to a lot of individuals. Yet to him, it was an event that changed him completely, and one he kept reliving in his head over and over for the rest of his life. It isn't the nature of the trauma that matters, but rather how much it affects the individual. They have a hard time making friends and start committing minor crimes. This happens because, most likely due to the trauma they experienced before, they develop something known as antisocial personality disorder. This is a complex condition, so I will only describe it very superficially. They lose almost all capacity to feel empathy or any kind of emotion that isn't rage or fear. They disregard societal norms and the law, and finally, they consider themselves to be superior to any other human being on the planet. However, that's not the only change they undergo. They also develop an existential sadism. To make it clear, people with APD are likely to hurt others, but that's not what drives them. It's more of a side product of being a selfish asshole with no empathy. Potential serial killers, on the other hand, are only motivated by the desire of causing as much harm to others as possible. That's what I mean when I say existential sadism. It's not simply a fetish, it's a calling. They have poor academic performance and become addicted to one or more substances, as well as developing an obsession with sex. It is worth noting that there have been exceptions in this regard, particularly when it comes to that bit about academic performance, but those are extremely rare. Yes, thanks to Ted Bundy, we now have the notion that serial killers can often be charming and are capable of being highly functional, but that's not the case for the overwhelming majority of them. They usually don't have a college degree and can hardly keep a job for too long. The reason for this is actually quite simple in my eyes. Since they only have one motivation, that of causing pain, everything else feels boring to them, and this ties perfectly to my other point. When a person doesn't feel motivated by anything, drugs win by default. The only other way for them to feel satisfaction besides making people suffer is to resort to the chemical pleasure caused by substances such as alcohol or weed. It's easy dopamine, and they can't get enough of it. They become heavily addicted and start abusing these substances every day, rapidly increasing the dose. You know what else is easy dopamine? Sex. To say that serial killers are perverts is an understatement. They are complete degenerates. After a while, the concepts of violence, drugs, and sex start to merge in their minds, forming one single entity that becomes their whole world. They develop psychosis. Now this is controversial, I know. There's a general understanding that serial killers are not psychotic, that they just kill out of sheer enjoyment and cruelty. I believe that this is because people are not aware of the consequences of substance abuse, as this factor is frequently disregarded as unimportant. I'm not arguing with the idea of them killing for pleasure, mind you, but with the notion that that's the only thing that compels them to commit a murder. They don't just decide to kill someone and do it. No, it's a very long process that starts with fantasies, test runs, and getting cold feet at the last moment. All of the drugs they compulsively put into their bodies start to cause neurological damage, altering their perception of reality and themselves. Those fantasies become obsessions, and once the line between thoughts and actions disappears, those test runs become assaults. And those instances where they get cold feet become full-fledged murders. This doesn't mean that they are not aware of their actions. This does not justify them. The desire to kill was always there. What all this does is help them overcome the fear of punishment. Once they kill for the first time, they cannot stop. Remember how I said that the concepts of sex, drugs, and violence merge in their heads? Well, that's why they cannot stop after the first victim. Murder is just another addiction, another way of getting easy dopamine. And just like with substance abuse, the dose needs to get higher every time. At this point, they are already living in their own fantasies. The more they kill, the more confident they get, and they relish in the fact that they can get away with it. They already think of themselves as being superior to everyone else, and each murder solidifies that notion more and more. So naturally, killing becomes the ultimate way to validate their existence. But, as previously mentioned, they need to increase the dose. They start taking less precautions to increase the danger of being caught. Their crimes get progressively more brutal and the time between them gets shorter. At this stage, they simply go on killing and escalating the violence until they either get caught or die. I don't consider this video as the definite and conclusive explanation as to why serial killers exist. What I wish more than anything is to create a discussion. There are other questions to be asked, however. It is always important to keep in mind that people are shaped by their culture. No one exists in a vacuum. Therefore, there are some time and place elements that I'm not discussing and plan to address in a different video. But that's all I have to say for now. As always, my friend, much love, and I hope you're alright. If I was